she'll be here shortly. But I'll introduce both of us for those of you that don't know. So Suzanne and I are both school social workers at the high school level. She also has Fred as well, K8. But one of the programs that we've been doing with District 6 is called Sources of Strength. Oh, Susanna's on, look at that timing. Welcome. And I just want to clarify, you guys can see my slideshow, right? Great, perfect. So Source of Strength is a program that we have in the schools for our students. It's a suicide prevention program. It's a strength-based approach. It helps you identify risk factors and kind of warning signs within, like that's what a lot of other programs do. And this one kind of turns it around so that we're really focusing on protective factors, still working to identify them. But in doing this, we really found that identifying the protective factors and working with our students on this, we realized how important it is for ourselves. And a lot of our staff have come to us saying that they found a lot from getting the Source of Strength ideas and positive outlook for themselves. So we wanted to bring it to the staff with Wellness Week. And that's pretty much it. If you have questions about what school it's in, feel free to send us a message and we can answer all those questions at the end. Any other business that I left out, Susanna? We'll utilize the chat and ask questions as we see them, or maybe at the end. Okay.
I'm just kind of curious how many of you participated in the Sources of Strength Challenge for the Holiday Wellness Challenge. Does that ring a bell? I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. Okay, that's helpful to know. So some of this might look a little familiar and some of it might.
Yeah, we'll be able to go a little bit more in depth about each of the different areas of strength. That's our goal, so that you can help recognize them for yourself. And we'll go from there. So Source of Strength utilizes positive psychology. We know from just brain science that our brains are automatically hardwired, like they just automatically go to that negative. So we have to really work on rewiring our brain so that we can focus on the positive aspects. And that's part of what Source of Strength does and how that helps us. There's Martin, I think I say his last name wrong, but Seligman. He's kind of like the father of positive, was in charge of the associations for psychology for a while, kind of helped do a lot of the work with DSM, which is the diagnostic criteria. And he's done a lot with that. He has a really interesting TED Talk. So I've linked it in, but we can put it into the chat in a little bit later. But he does a lot with kind of building on your strengths, repairing with the damage that's already been done. There's a lot of work with this with trauma as well, but really just kind of nurturing talent and seeing where you can go. So we're going to get into the different areas of strength, and Susanna's going to take over for that.
Awesome. So many of you have seen our wheel before, and we have our wheel is kind of looks into thirds, and so we have the first part of our wheel is the people part of our wheel, and within this we look at family support. And so we're really going to try to utilize the chat as much as possible today to kind of keep us engaged at 4:15 on a gorgeous day. If you can think about when we think about family support, a lot of times we might think about family that's related to us by blood, might be by choice, by marriage, by my best friend's parents that I grew up with. So these are people who support, nurture, and care for us. And as we're adults, this might look a little bit different for what we will look to as family support. When I was a kid, I looked to my family, my parents a little bit more, but now I look to my my partner and my children as my family support. And so I'm curious, as we look at this, thinking about how we can nurture our family support. So I want you to be thinking right now who you might identify as someone in your family, like I said, by choice or by blood, that you might really think about as like, this person is my go-to family support. And I want you to think about some examples of maybe how you can really nourish this. So thinking possibly about calling someone who's really supportive, maybe someone you haven't talked to in a long time. hosting a family game night, thanking someone for being your family of choice, giving somebody flowers, give them to your mom or to your dad or grandma or grandpa, maybe taking a family member out for ice cream. Maybe that's like a niece or nephew. And then maybe thinking about FaceTiming or video calling a family member. So those are some ideas for family support. I want you to think right now about maybe something, either someone that you identify, or maybe one of these examples that you might be able to really try and help to nourish that, and throw that in the chat. Oh, yes. My dog. Lovely, lovely. A partner being go-to support. I love that.
And I think a lot of the point of Source of Strength is to make sure that you're being intentional about it. So really finding a babysitter and making an intentional time to see each other and to see who is supportive is really important when you're trying to work on building up on your strengths.
I love that. I love that. Awesome.
Watching March Madness. We're actually at Northridge. We are currently doing a mentor March Madness. So we're going to get into mentors in a little bit, but
That's awesome.
I'll send you
I
some
love
of that.
that. Very, very cool. Oh, I like shoulder time. That's nice. We have pocket time. Love that. Awesome. And I see one of the things in here is friends. And so a lot of times that's such a great segue, because a lot of times we really look to our friends as our family at times, right? And so when we, how many of you have maybe had a negative friend? I have had negative friends, right, throughout my life. And as you think about that, I want you to think about those qualities that maybe you realize were in that friend that you were missing. So like, what are some of the qualities of positive friends? Let's throw those into the chat. Or maybe somebody can just can unmute and tell me some qualities of being a positive friend. Dependable, good listening, genuine, no drama. Yes. Ooh, I love that. Assume positive intention.
I love the no drama.
Yeah.
I happened to be at the service center today and actually took a picture of a sign on their wall that, because we're going to go into physical health in a little bit too. But it was talking about drinking water. And if you drink a gallon of water a day, what did it say? You won't have time for other people's drama because you'll be too busy running to the bathroom. And that really resonated with me. And I love that.
Awesome. Right. I love that. So no judgment, empathy, accepting, beautiful. Those are all qualities of a positive friend, right? So really thinking about the people in your life. When we do this with students, a lot of times we say positive friends, and then they go to write down a positive friend, and that person's not always the positive friend, right? And so doesn't always encourage them to make those good choices. And so I want you to think about that one person that really is that positive friend for you. And right now, make a note. Either send them a text message or call them after this presentation today. Really make a point of making a connection with one positive friend today. Okay, we made a bunch of other examples, but the point of this that's so important is to really make sure that we are identifying those friends in our life that lift us up, that make us laugh, that help us to find the better in ourselves. Maybe give us a break for a minute, distract us, right? But really that are there when we need them. And that's just one of the things that we want to make sure we're really paying attention to. And there's all kinds of things we can do with our positive friends. I mean, you know, we can often connect positive friends and healthy activities or generosity, but it's definitely one of those things that we want to be paying attention to, so that maybe we can go on a walk or a run with a friend.
And when we do these activities, like making a point to send a text message to our positive friend, it reminds our brain that we're able to rely on those people.
Yes.
Reminds us that they're always here. So those are one of the things you want to kind of increase that contact with them.
Love that. Awesome. Okay, so we talked a little bit about mentors. I would like to see again, with a show of hands, who here can identify a mentor, someone who may be an experienced person who shares your insight, helps guide you, helps you in your teaching, or possibly helps you in some sort of a personal endeavor, or helps you in some way just to be a better human? Who can identify maybe one mentor? And if somebody would just unmute, that would be awesome. Bethany, can you unmute and tell us who might be, or put it in the chat? Yeah.
My previous supervisor, my last job, I worked in higher ed. Their encouragement, especially on my down days, is really what proved their mentorship to me. Just that encouragement to like work through the dirty to get to the good.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Bethany. So work through the dirty to get to the good. I might have to write that one down. Put that up on my wall. I think most definitely that's it, right? That is a great example. And I see some coworkers, right, who are, somebody said a coworker, Leslie shared a coworker. It's definitely thinking about that mentorship. Who guides us? Does anyone else want to share? Dan, since I know you, I'm going to call on you. Who's a mentor for you?
You are muted.
I can't hear you.
There we go. Is that better?
Yep. Now we can hear you.
It's funny because I actually use Kelly Picone as kind of my mentor. She's kind of helped me through a lot of different things, and so I kind of look up to her, and she's really kind of helped be kind of my soundboard and help me think through things a lot.
That's so awesome.
That's great.
And I think there's nothing wrong with having your mentor as part of other parts of your wheel, and I noticed that for you, and that's awesome. That's great. In being in education, some of the things that are also really important is the idea that we are often a mentor to students every single day, right? And so when we do a lot of these campaigns with our students, we're talking about trusted adult campaigns. And we know that for students to have a trusted adult is at least be able to identify one trusted adult at school is one of the greatest protective factors that we can give them. And so sometimes it's really, you can even get more out of being a mentor to someone than actually having a mentor yourself. And so that's another thing to think about, is really maybe if there might be a season where we are without a mentor for right now, maybe we can look at becoming a mentor and really taking a couple of students under our wings to really be that positive support, or maybe being a mentor for another teacher or another professional. So really thinking about that. And then the other piece is really working really hard to celebrate that person, and maybe then even celebrating your mentee, the person you're mentoring. So really thinking about that is a really cool, special way.
It's also important to keep in mind that we can have mentors, yes, with our career, but also in other aspects of our life. I know just a few people, even on this Zoom call, also like to garden. And so it's really helpful for me to have a mentor with gardening, somebody who can tell me like, no, you want to put these seeds out at this time, or you want to start this one earlier. So we have mentors at different aspects of our life, and they kind of not just with our career, which is I think what we often go to.
I love that.
Yes, and also leads into our next part of the wheel. Because gardening is one of my healthy activities.
And I want y'all to take just a second and think about that, because sometimes we do find ourselves getting really burnt out. And so think about that for just a second with what other parts of your life, as we're looking into healthy activities, what other parts of your life do you want to nourish and flourish and start to see different things? Because we do put so much time in our work that maybe that's something that could be connected, that, hey, maybe this year I want to run a marathon. not me, but maybe someone else wants to run a marathon. And if they do, then maybe they need to call Dan or Kelly and ask for some support, right? That would be, that maybe that's a connection that we never really thought of before. So I want you to take a minute right now and, oh, I love that. I want you to take a minute right now and think about some of those healthy activities. Okay. Right now, I want to see some serious blowing up of the chat. Tell me all your healthy activities. Think about things you like to do. Think about things that fill your soul, right? So we are talking outside, inside, extroverted, introverted, right? Okay, I love this, right? Walking our dog. Ooh, paddle boarding. Nice. Spending time with grandkids, right? Crafting, kayaking, book club. I love that idea because that not only often can be, when we're talking about book club, we're thinking about reading and then really nourishing that time, but also maybe with positive friends. That's excellent.
My mom has a book club that really turned into a just hanging out with friends club.
Yeah, hanging out with friends club. I like that. Thanks, Deb. That's exactly right. So one of the pictures that we put up was this sweet picture of Callie. This is Jesse's dog. It's the cutest picture ever. And so that's it, right? Cuddling with your pets or your kids or your partner, right? Maybe that's it. I love that. So there are so many different ways that we can nourish our healthy activities. And really just pay attention to what fills our soul. And that's it, right? And it can be, and one of the things that's also important as we're moving into beautiful weather, it's also really important to think about these are seasonal, some of them, right? So when we move into maybe winter or those darker seasons that are a little bit harder for us, or for some of us, think about what those healthy activities look like at that point, and maybe work on nourishing some of that through the summer so that we can make those into habits, right? Maybe if reading isn't something you've always wanted to do, but you think about, not necessarily doing that all the time when it's so beautiful outside, maybe take your book outside, read outside, get in the habit so that when it does get to be harder weather, you have that as a habit. So just thinking about that also. Awesome.
And I often talk about how much I listen to books while I walk my dog, and that's kind of my multiple healthy activities combined, but it also acts as a tool for me to tell when I'm struggling a little bit and I can't pay attention to my book and I can't retain the information. It's just kind of going in one ear and out the other, literally. That's how I know I need to up my healthy activities and maybe walk a little bit longer.
I love that. Maybe turn off the book for a few minutes and just listen to the outside, right? Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Okay, so the people part of the wheel is our family support, positive friends, and mentors. We, with healthy activities, started in our taking care of ourselves part of the wheel. Help me, Jesse, what's that one?
Yeah, just action
good, right?
Part of the wheel.
Yeah, our passion's part of the wheel. And then, and so this is when we think about generosity. Okay, I want y'all to think about a time when maybe you did something for someone else. And maybe secretly you got more out of it than you did when, than you even that person might have, right? This is it's these acts of kindness that we consistently do with others, or that, and this is part of what we do in our job. We give so much of ourselves, but thinking even outside of our jobs, what are things that we do that are generous acts, kind acts? And it might be really small, it might be really big, but really thinking about how we can make an impact on other people and ourselves. Does anyone have an example that they'd like to share of something of a generous act that maybe even they have been a part of? Somebody maybe was generous to them, or that they've witnessed or done themselves. Oh my gosh, I love this. I helped a blind man find a chair while his wife was checking in for him at an appointment. How beautiful.
That's a great example.
What a great example. And that didn't take you long, right? There wasn't much in it. But that's amazing. Awesome.
Has anyone noticed how it kind of spreads a little bit it's that movie where it passes along. Does anyone
Pay
know
it
what I'm talking
forward.
about? Pay it forward. Thank you.
Yes.
I noticed this. So I started shoveling for one of my neighbors who isn't able to shovel. And then it snowed one of the days where school wasn't canceled and I had to go in and didn't have time to do his sidewalk before I left. And my other neighbor started to shovel his sidewalk too. It kind of became something that, and then they started to kind of pass it along, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's awesome. I see some really cool examples, right? And
Yeah.
it can be something simple. I love that. It's just giving
Flowers
people,
make everyone happy, I think.
I think so. Giving people love, right? I love that. There was a woman on one of those cold snow days, a woman was walking past and didn't have, she didn't have a jacket of any kind. And it was 20, like it was with wind chill 20 below, right? So I carry jackets in my car and I was shoveling. And so there we go, right? Like I was able to give her a jacket and I think it was awesome. And I still hold it, right? I love this one, give the gift of time without an agenda. Right?
And I love that, Rachel. So you can cook for people who need it.
Oh my
That's
gosh,
great.
that's so fun.
I'll put that on the list of things to do.
Oh, I love this. Yes, kindness bags in my car. Alice and I have those too.
Great.
Oh,
Buying a friend coffee even when you're not with them. I love that.
Jesse's really good at that for me. Jesse does that for me a lot. That's awesome. So cool. This is really fun.
Oh, that's great.
I love that. So I really want you to think about this because this is one often I think that gets missed, right? We do these things, but when we put thought behind it and when we really have intention, this can really be very helpful, right? So for ourselves or someone else. Awesome. Okay, so this last part of our passion or helpful part of the wheel is when we look at spirituality. And sometimes spirituality is a really hard one to grasp. And so when we think of spirituality, we think about, often we can think about gratitude, really what we can do to express our gratitude. So this can be, we can also practice this in so many ways, right? We can figure out what kind of gives us this sense of purpose. We look at the root word of spirituality and we think about what helps our spirit soar, right? What do we connect with? So this is gratitude, right? Is that profound way to practice this, right? We can also really think about different things that just connect with our spirit. So maybe that is artwork. Maybe that's music. Maybe that's going to a concert. Jesse, go for it.
Yeah, they sources of strength, when we were getting trained as trainers in this, they gave this example of being at a concert where everyone's singing together and kind of moving together, and it didn't click with me. And then I was at a concert shortly after the training and everyone's singing along and kind of swaying together, and it clicked. I was like, this is what they mean. I feel so connected to the people around me. It felt like this overall, we're all in this together. You know, it was of course a positive song and I understood it. And that's one thing that's really resonated with me.
So I want
That you can find it in places you don't expect.
Yeah. And think about, oh, awesome. I think about the idea of really maybe a place that has spiritual significance. But as we're finished, as we kind of close on this part of our wheel, think about something specific that you're grateful for. Yeah, I'm just going to give you about 10 seconds. I want you to take a deep breath and I want you to think about at least one thing, if not three, that you're specifically grateful for in your day. Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Maybe when you call your positive friend later, you can let them know what you're grateful for today. Very good. All right. So this next part of the wheel, this is our health part of the wheel. When we're looking into this, we're talking about physical health and mental health. Okay. So this part of the wheel used to be called medical access, but they've changed this so that we can really think about how we can get better. How we can take care of ourselves within our bodies, our hearts, and our minds, right? So we can look at this as something as simple as drinking water, right? If we're drinking water, we're not getting involved in people's drama because we're in the bathroom all the time. I love it. So two birds with one stone.
I think sleep is something we don't forget about and how important it is to get sleep. NPR this morning was talking about the time change and how in car accidents increase during the time change, and they increase 8% with fatal car accidents. And I think increases to the emergency room for heart attacks and heart arrhythmias increase with time change. And it all has to do with not getting enough sleep.
Interesting. And so when we really look at this, we think about that 5210 plus, right? And we think about that, just trying to not just do that in February, but in all the days that we can, because so many of the things that we have that are healthy activities and really pay attention to our physical health helps with this. Awesome. And then the last part of the wheel is mental health. And so with this, one of the things that Sources is really focusing on, mental health absolutely is part of making sure we have the support we need, right? And the support that we deserve to help us to get through things when we're struggling, right? We think about, I think about physical health. If I broke my leg, you all, as my good friends and coworkers, would make sure that I got help. If I am struggling emotionally, it's also our duty to help other people, encourage other people to get help for that, because it is the same idea. If our brains and our minds and our mental health is not well, then we need to be able to find those resources. So there's a reason that mental health is right across the street from healthy activities, because when things get hard, a lot of times we think about mental health in the expression of 3 different emotions, and that is sadness or depression, anxiety, and anger. And so when we are experiencing these, we often really look to healthy activities to figure out what we can do in order to be okay, in order to manage. So we gave some examples here, and Rachel did suggest that there is a great resources on the District 6 website. One of the things you want to think about here is when we think about the wheel, all these parts of the wheel are so important. And there are times when we can't just rely on one part of the wheel, right? One of my kids is really big into parkour. He broke his foot and he had some significant depression for about a month because that was his thing. That was his only thing. So we have to look to the other part of the wheel. And I love this idea. If you're stuck inside the giant parachute in gym class, can you get out, right? We think of this as the parachute, right? As we need many parts of the wheel in order to feel balanced and be able to kind of stay up and be okay. So go for it, Jess.
And the other thing to keep in mind is to be patient, and we have 1 minute left. So the story about the Brooklyn Bridge that I was going to share about how it took years, everyone was upset because they didn't see any change and it cost all this money, but they were doing all this work below the water line to really make it stable. So the time it was the longest suspension bridge in the world. And that's really what we want to focus on, is that this all takes time, and acknowledging your strengths and working on which ones you want to improve upon is something that's really important to do. And that you can talk to your school social worker about getting some ideas for that, but to be patient, that just because you know that this is one thing you want to work on, it's not going to change immediately. It all takes time.
So one thing to note is we gave you a couple of extra resources here, and these are linked in our PowerPoint. And so you can do that. Really, we've got an educator self-care card that just focuses on this, and then also a checklist. And then in addition, kind of as we're moving forward, Jesse, you want to close us out?
Yeah, so these are both things that you can do and kind of evaluate where you're at. But if everyone would share in the chat 2 strengths you're doing well with and one that you want to work on and improve by next school year, that can kind of help ground it and set a goal for yourself.
We really look at this as a different kind of self-care, right? Like looking at really as holistic, looking at everything that helps us to keep going.
Baths are wonderful. And also figuring out who you can go to when you're struggling can be really helpful.
Mhm.
But that's what we got.
Awesome.
So if there's any questions, it's 4:46 and I don't want to keep you over, but we're here to answer questions if that's okay.